Well, hello, you're welcome to Wellington, Florida for the ninth week of Winter Equestrian Festival action. This is the Bainbridge Companies week, and Bainbridge Companies are our sponsors for our next class in that five-star tour. Of course, starting with our opening world ranking class on Wednesday, going the way of Ireland. Yesterday, Bainbridge, Anjou de Grisienne taking the Adequan WEF Challenge, and today we've got a field of horses and riders, just about 45 of them coming in our $62,500 Bainbridge Companies 5-star meter 50 speed. Alan Wade is leading the design team this week. Great to have him with us here for a prestigious 5-star week, and we're actually going to be leading off with one of the Irish riders, Tom Watchman. Tom had a very good week with us last week, winning the WEF Challenge during week 8. We've also got Nicola Philippart's been very successful up in Central Florida at WEC this year. Michael Duffy, championship medalist for Ireland there amongst the first group to come in as well. Actually, just behind Michael, it is going to be yesterday's winner, Ben Mayer with Dallas Vegas Bati. And between DVB and Anjou de Grisienne, Ben with some very, very strong rides here this week for competition at Bainbridge Companies WEF 5. Of course, no stranger to Grand Prix success here over the years at Winter Equestrian Festival. Looking further on, we've got some Olympians like Tyser Irwin, Carlos Hank, got Niall Nassar, who went very well in the challenge yesterday. Coming up, we've got Marilyn Little. Marilyn was originally going to ride 2 in the class from last week's winning US Nations Cup team. Marilyn will just go early in the draw with Norado. Got young talent of Israel, Yali Kass. We've got Nicola Philippart's actually coming with 2 quite close together, second and then again in 19th, followed by Shane Sweetnam. Shane again there or thereabouts so frequently already this 2026 Winter Equestrian Festival. Just before halfway, we're going to see Richie Vogel, the European champion of the sport, with Ballycotton, and Aaron Ballard will lead off in front of Norwegian Olympian Vicky Gulliksen. Callie Schott of the USA, Charlotte Jacobs, Kent Farrington, Mimi Gotchman, all to come in the second half of the draw as well. Quite a few with double rides here for the Bainbridge Company's 5-star meter 50 speed. So Tom Watchman, the Grand Prix winner at London last year in December in the indoors, and actually, as I say, WEF Challenge winner here 7 days ago. Tom joins us to lead us away with Tabasco de Toxandra. Rider eminently still qualified for the U25 level of the sport. Indeed, he was at the U21 European Championships last year in Riesenbeck, Germany. Tabasco and Tom, part of that Irish top 5 in the World Cup qualifier this time last year in Ocala, Florida. And 2 top 5s in Grand Prix action last year with Tabasco here, including actually in the WEF 9 Grand Prix. So having been top 5 at 5-star here last year, Tom Watchman hoping to come back and go a little bit closer. So time allowed is going to be 76 seconds over the single round of jumping, where faults in time will be the deciding factor for our contenders.
Well, set to go into this $62,500 Bainbridge 5-star 150. Tom Watchman going to be the first around the course here, decided by Alan Wade. 13 fences on the track here for our class this afternoon. Also introduced into the qualifying for our Grand Prix.
Trailblazer. Show us the way around. And as I say, this is the last stop on the line before Saturday Night Lights, the Grand Prix tomorrow night. Alan Wade starts them out over in front of the International Club. Coming here now to this rollback in front of the in-gate. He's got this teal fence right in front of the in-gate, sort of beehive structure as the fillers underneath. Not super wide poles either, so quite light. And Tom and Tabasco just aren't really rattling along, you would suggest. But he does just pick up the horse there, balances, and then sees his spot out to that line. That actually green, white and gold sort of Irish coloured fence there. Was much the same position as it was yesterday for the big class as well. So Tom carrying an early 4 as he goes down the bottom end of the ring past the special events pavilion. Moden, the week sponsors a couple of weeks ago and sponsors this year of the International Club, presenting that double. As I say, we are once again in a competition where there are 3 doubles instead of a triple combination. Coming up that very, very bright blue as they head up towards the top end of the ring. 10A, 10B. Little light plank there in front of the net, Jets landing, and now one more push down to the final line. Lugano is going to be our final fence on course in this single round of jumping, and there's a lot of time penalties there coming into play. 8 for jumping, 11 for time. As we said, we never really saw that Tom was maybe going all out here for the time of 76 seconds to be covered at 375 meters a minute, as we always say, about 13 miles an hour. Nicola Philipparts and Katanga van het Dingershoff with us now. Nicola, as I say, has had some good results here in North America over the course of the winter season, winning one of the major league Grand Prix in Tryon as well. Nicola and twin brother Olivier, both 5-star winners on the Global Champions Tour. And of course, younger brother Thibaut then, a Super Grand Prix contender last year, thanks to his podium finish in New York. It was actually Nicola who was also in that Super Grand Prix last year with this horse Katanga, ended up top 5, but he's just going to have a rail there at the bottom end of the ring out of the horses' heads. He comes through the Moden double, and again you see him just sit up there, balance the horse that little bit. This has been quite uncharacteristic for this pair to be sitting on 8, now 12 faults in a meter 50 speed like this. Nicola just working quite hard to try and get the horse to listen and react, because he wants that rideability, he wants that reaction, that listening from the horse in order to try and do as best he can in tomorrow night's Grand Prix. 12 for jumping, 2 for time today. It's going to tell him a lot about the horsepower he has going into Saturday Night Lights. Ansgar Holkers Jr. Cantibes by Hunter Sendro for the Gut Einhaus ownership. Jumping in the U25 Brain Juice Series this season, as well as right here up to the 5-star level of the sport. So it's actually just, it's clouded over a little bit. It's nothing like as warm as it was here yesterday. And actually we're building up maybe towards a little bit of a storm here tomorrow in terms of weather. But where I started that point was that Oxblood fence, just going down the first of the doubles. Ansgar just coming into the Moden double there, just runs out of puff. He's just not on a good spot at all. But the Oxblood fence is one of those fences that it really works very, very well under bright sunshine, because it is that slightly matte colour. It doesn't shine and glisten. It sort of draws in the light to its matte colour. Oxblood is a very, very interesting colour in terms of design of show jumps. be interesting to see how many problems we end up with there today. Ansgar just not covering the back rail there, unfortunately. Takes the front rail off the Oxer going through the blue double. I think it's also interesting down at that blue double, the difference in the materials. He's got those white columns wings for the A element and then very traditional looking blue wings for the second part. Ansgar overall is just going to call it a day and retire. $62,500 in the prize fund. Somebody's going to win it. But we need some good scores yet. We've had, for a start, having time faults in a timed first round competition would suggest that you have probably squandered your opportunity for the win. But who actually is going to get around inside the time and leave everything standing and start to give us a real target on our leaderboard? Stephanie Masiera and HFB Swarovski. Swarovski jumping the Friday meter 50 and then also the Sunday meter 50 classic, the Hermes series class 2 weeks ago with us during WEF 7. Our previous 5-star week, of course, Stephanie, one of the double clear rides for Brazil in Nations Cup action here last Saturday night. Nice job there through the Moden fence, but there's a long way still to go on this track. Again, you know, we got that sense yesterday in the WEF Challenge, the Adequan WEF Challenge, that, you know, there are just challenges to be answered on every line, and answering one line does not necessarily mean you're guaranteed the next line, because you go back to zero, you're rolling the dice again, you have an equal chance of any of the sides turning up. Stephanie Masiera, HFB Swarovski, getting into exactly that scenario. 2 down in quick succession late on the course. It is time-wise going to be our first inside the time, only just a shade over half a second inside, and 2 down, 8 faults for Stephanie and Swarovski.
Now the US running for Olivia Benicio here in Wellington. This is Theo Duke, TNL set.
Blythe Caroli representing the USA here with the TNL horse Theo Duke. Heard the rattle off the fence, but it does stay in place, but just caught their back rail of the first part of the Ox Blood and White double down. Blythe the second to pay the penalty there, and it is quite early on the course still when you consider it, just going down at 4A, 4B. Oh, and just came at that a little bit out of nowhere, and there was a question. And you can never really get there on a question. You've got to be decisive. And I think Theo Duke said a little bit, are we sure? And Blythe wasn't there with the decisive answer of, yes, we are absolutely sure. So a refusal and so the disobedience and disturbance, that was the word I was looking for, beginning with a D. And therefore, that is going to be a penalty for them. But actually, she's just going to go and pop the tequila fence, the chrome horse, and indicate that she retires. The busy rider, been a winner on Global Champions. He's been on winning teams in the Major League Series here in North America as well. There's 2 WEF Grand Prix top 10s already this season. Michael Duffy, Michael with Cantano 3-2. It's a nice spot there, going away from the in-gate. Remember, he's got the little sort of the O'Neill pale blue-green fence in front of the in-gate, little vertical quite early on, and then you have to push away from the in-gate as well. That Oxford. Ooh! So we did have one grind to a halt in front of the Modern earlier on, Ansgar Holkers. Michael Duffy's horse, though, just napping a little bit out of the corner there. And he cannot get around. I mean, he gave it a game chance, but has to accept the 4 false. Of course, the clock keeps ticking as well. And that's very, very nice horsemanship from Michael to just settle the horse, settle himself as well. A lot of this about the, the twin minds and the very, very calm, athletic, mental approach. But Michael just schools the horse forward, back in front of the leg, through the Modern double. As I say, in any event, he's going to be very, very cagey here, that he doesn't over-ask the horse anything. He just wants the horse to get as many nice jumps as possible as he continues and concludes the round, because he wants to come back probably with this horse on Sunday for the Hermes Meter 50 and try and make it better, and have the horse go out, not only having had a nice jumping experience on the latter part of the round here, but then go out on, for both of them, a nice result at the end of the week. So standingly, still no clear rounds. Does it come from this man with Dallas Vegas Batilly, the 3-time Olympic gold medalist Ben Mayer? You say won the Adequan WEF Challenge yesterday afternoon with Anjou de Grusienne. This horse, DVB, was top 5 in a 5-star Grand Prix here 12 months ago. Again, you just hear the little bit of a clunk off the rail at the A element. There are a lot of them just touching it, falling for several. Ben Mayer, in fact, is picking up the rail. That's the front rail off the green, white and yellow fence after the Oxblood double. So standing, it's not just that maybe we've got a different field of horses today in comparison to the WEF Challenge. Normally, maybe our WEF Challenge horses are the Grand Prix horses. Our competitors today in the Meter 50 speed, they're our competitors for the Meter 50 Classic on Sunday. But, DVB, Dallas Vegas Batilly, very much a Grand Prix horse. Ben Mayer, great rider. Michael Duffy, great rider. Tom Watchman, Nicola Philipparts, great riders. Stephanie Massiera, double clear in the Nations Cup last weekend. Nobody can get the 0 score just yet over Alan Wade's track. It is holding its secrets very, very closely. Ben obviously has also slowed down that little bit, so it's 8 jumping and 2 for time for Charlotte Roster and Pamela Wright's Dallas Vegas Batilly. So Stephanie Massiera, as we hear there from Jason Porter on the ring, is our current leader with just 8 faults, 75-47 with Swarovski. And it is Brazil who takes their turn here once again. World's top 100 rider, Eduardo Pereira de Menezes. Eduardo with the age 5 sport horses, Contador. Double clear just at the closing moments of last month, amongst other results, has helped move him up. He was actually sitting about 120th in the world rankings, which they get updated at the beginning of each month, and moving up into 80th here as we go into March. Counting the top results of the last 12 months on a rolling basis. Eduardo, a very, very familiar face here on the North American circuit with the Brazilian team. He was a Pan American Games team gold medalist in Lima, Peru. And that was again with another one of the H5 horses. And of course, that is a string of horses that we know tremendously well. Also, I think you can just gather off your screen where you might be watching on a small mobile device, but there's a sort of marbled effect to the white in the middle of that plank up in the corner in front of the NetJets landing as well. So Eduardo is going to be 8/4 like teammate Stephanie Massiera, but he's going to be much, much faster, 69 seconds on the clock, and that takes up the lead for the moment. And, you know, we can let the clock, we can let the faults do all the work here of creating a leaderboard. But out of this field of horses and riders, we'd be surely expecting a few clear rounds to come. Again, jumping well yesterday with her Olympic partner Hialita. We welcome forward today Tyza Owen with Cobalina TN, the Eldorado van der Zeshoek bred Dutch warm blood mare, owned by Michael Smith. Michael, a very, very successful owner with horses with McLean Ward, with Tyza and others, and indeed sponsoring a leading rider bonus across the 12 weeks of sport here at the Winter Equestrian Festival as well. What Tyza really needs to do is just get this horse up in front of her as well, because you just saw, particularly in the line 1 to 2, is just heavy in the hand, dropping down on her hand, stride by stride by stride. But actually she's sort of turned the horse's outline the right way for her now. And normally the 76 seconds time allowed should be very, very comfortable for riders at this level. You know, if they're going to be competitive, they should be miles inside it. So actually the fact that she wasn't able to just really go and engage 1 to 2 shouldn't necessarily translate into time penalties. So we're on 4. If she comes home on 4 inside the time, she goes into the lead. But still, it means that we are just not quite there for a first clear round in our Bainbridge 5-star meter 50. And the plank that we were talking about a few moments ago goes. Tick-tock on the clock. 74.96, 1.04 seconds inside the time, but it is 8 jumping faults for Tyza and Cobalina, and that's worth second place at the moment. As we remember, Stephanie Massiera was just that fraction over half a second inside the time allowed. Tyza is just over a second. On we go then to the Stefex Stables entry, Tombola. Tombola by Toulon for Zoe Hank-Conter. Zoe, who married Carlos Hank last year, creating something of a power couple. Zoe with the Stefex string of horses owned by her father, Stéphane Conter. And of course, sister, a 5-star Grand Prix winner here with us 12 months ago on the circuit. And Daniel Deusser, the lead rider amongst a great string of international riders, as well as the 2 daughters for Stefex Stables. Oh, Zoe, unfortunate there. You could just hear that she felt she just needed to make that bigger adjustment. We heard her go for the woe vocally, but unfortunately it is the 4 faults at the back rail. You know, one interesting thing that you can hear on the audio from the arena is that it's just that little bit windier today. The flags are flying, and it would sort of, as you're jumping that plank, be coming up into the horse's face. Any wind that can get, you know, it's worth also remarking it's difficult for wind to get into this ring because it is so well surrounded by all of the various VIPs, pavilions and hospitality areas and public spectator areas. But so it's 8 faults, 74.81 for Zoe Hank. So 8 faults is coming up as the best score again and again and again. That is our 4th to finish on 8. Anyone who can get a 4 or a 0 is going to go well out in front at the moment. And we're already about a quarter of the way through. Here's Kyle Tim with the Rain family's Atomica de Sequoia. Kyle has been lucky enough for several years now to ride the horses of the Rain family of Canada. Came very, very close to Olympic selection for Canada with a series of horses. And in the interim as well had been a big part of some of the Global Champions League teams. A rider who knows the whole industry. He spent time out in New Zealand. He's based now pretty much in northern France. He's got a real feel for the sport as it is right around the world, having grown up, like so many of the riders inspired to go to the top level from Canada, within the shadow, really, of Spruce Meadows in Calgary. And I think that's one of the major legacies of Spruce Meadows. It celebrated 50th anniversary last year, and it's not just, you know, the names and the winners that echo down through the year, but it's the number of riders, particularly in Canada, just by proximity, that they've inspired to join the sport. But I'd say, you know, also as one of the trailblazers in broadcast, Spruce Meadows invited or inspired a lot of riders around the world. So 4 faults at the bright blue double, just going back up towards the top end of the ring. The B element down, unfortunately, for Kyle Tim and Atomica de Sequoia in 71.73. But that is the one to beat at the moment. A single rail down is the best we've seen so far. So here is Mr. Zoe, Carlos Hank. Carlos with H5 K's Pleasure Hero for H5 Sport Horses. Of course, we saw an H5 earlier on with Eduardo Pereira de Menezes as well. Say one of our Olympians in the field, part of the Mexican team here last Saturday night. Actually had a couple of good results over the last few weeks here at WEF as well, including a little bit of prize money taken from the Hermes Meter 50 Classic on the Sunday of our most recent 5-star week, WEF 7. I was going to say, he looked like he was just making absolutely sure. Brilliant jump and set up through the Oxblood double. But then I think he just settled. He thought he had a good rhythm and he settled into a pace that ended up just bringing him a shade too close into that fence after, which was actually a fence that was had down by Ben Mayer as well, triple Olympic gold medalist. So, you know, there are real challenges out there on this Meter 50 today. I think people are going to be girding their loins for the Hermes Meter 50 on Sunday. Over the last, the Lugano unfortunately goes as well, so it's going to be 8 in 68 for Carlos Hank and H5K's Pleasure. So 7th position, say In fact, we're just actually getting told it's a 12. My apologies for not spotting all those rails. So that puts him into 7th. As I say, we've got 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th all on 8 faults. Ben Mayer was on 8 plus 2 for a total of 10. Niall and Igor for Egypt. ESI Ali, his podium finisher in yesterday's Adequan WEF Challenge. And again, that could be the breakdown of these two horses. They're both very, very good horses. Igor van der Wittemore here and ESI Ali. He could flick-flack and maybe put Igor, who was his Tokyo Olympic horse, forward for tomorrow night's Saturday Night Lights Grand Prix. It's a $500,000 prize fund, as it is throughout the 5-star sequence of week 5, week 7, week 9. Just going to have the rail there at the Oxblood, as many have before, with then our final week, the finale, being $1 million, the Rolex US Equestrian Open Grand Prix. And Niall just tips the hat then to the judges, having had a rail down at the bottom end of the ring as well. He decides not to push any further. But Igor, one thing that is worth noting is that we've got to work out Grand Prix qualification as well. So horses have to complete a round of jumping at the Table A standard. So we will keep an eye on all that. And that might also affect whether Niall is able to bring Igor for the Grand Prix, or whether it's ESI Ali, having completed the class yesterday, that has the qualification. But that is all done behind the scenes. I don't have to keep track of all that, thank goodness. Marilyn Little next to go again, inside our world's top 100 for Marilyn. Again, picking up a nice bump after the Nations Cup and her February performances, moving up from about 90th in the rankings to, as we saw today, in the 70s. Marilyn here could absolutely be one to not only go clear, but lay down a time that we might be talking about for quite some time. And you see her determination for that in the angle she took at 1, the approach and angle she took at number 2. Again, really nice spot through the Oxblood double. She sits up, gets the balance, gets the spot down to that fence after, there's obviously, a huge connection between the double and the fence after, even on such a long stride. Just gets in a shade deep. You can see her just touch the front rail at the Moden fence, but it stays in place. Marilyn was due to have 2 starters in this class, has ended up just going all in on this horse, Narado, a Granderado bred. Of course, Granderado with Willem Greve of the Netherlands. Fantastic horse at the top level of the sport, and it's always so exciting to see sires and progeny at the same level simultaneously. And there we are, clear round number 1, 67.98 from Marilyn Little. It is worth noting that not only is that our first clear round, but it is also the fastest anyone has been over this track so far. To say we're literally 25% of the way through the starting draw, just a shade over, and that is our first clear round. But it could very easily open the floodgates now for the rest of the class. It will have shown a lot of people what works. It might be that people can look out and say, yeah, my horse is like Marilyn's. What I was thinking about, I had a choice between this and this. Marilyn did this, so that's what I'm going to do. That's helped me make my choice. So Tanner Karotkin, Vego Chin van Willebeke. Saw Tanner yesterday with Kinmar Quality Hero as podium finisher from Grand Prix action earlier on in the series. Got away with that because from the position he was on, he was just quite far off what's a very, very big square oxer, so he just snuck across the top of the front and back rail. Came down pretty steep, but actually clean jump from Vigo Chin meant that it all stayed in place. Again, ever such a light touch at the modem, but it stays. And finally caught out. Again, that rolling forward stride, they're just making up distance, and inside that double, that wasn't going to work out for them. The second fence, the plank, could easily happen because our horses know what their job is, and sometimes they just get a little bit of a sort of a red mist. They get upset with themselves when they touch the first rail, and you can quite often see one rail turning into another couple very quickly for horses at this very, very top level. So it is with the rail in the double and the plank down, 8 faults for Tanner and Vigo Chin van der Willebeke. And that goes into 4th, 0-4. And then our group of 8s are the ranking so far. Marilyn Little on the 0, Kyle Tim on the 4. Disappointing start, unfortunately, here for Yali Cass to just come out and pick away that first rail. Unfortunately, Yali turned 18 this year, and he's starting to make the most of that opportunity to start riding in the biggest Grand Prix. He rode in the Nations Cup here last weekend as well. Panamarenko Optimus, and Yali unfortunately off to a very, very sticky start here. Having had the first, it's now 2 disobediences at the skinny teal fence in front of the in-gate, and sadly that's going to incur elimination for the young Israeli rider. So as remarked when we were looking at the start list, Stephanie Masiera comes back very quickly with a second ride. Stephanie this time joins us with another for Bonchance Farm. This one is Cantella van Merelsnest, because those Merelsnest bloodlines going back to Glasgow van Het Merelsnest. So Stephanie then with the 3 down 12 jumping force 71.88 takes up 10th spot. Also returning to us very quickly is Nicola Philipparts. Nicola this time with Derby to Riverland, the Cannon bred. Actually the horse before was a Cannon bred as well. So Nicola owner rider here. So Nicola just coming around here to this line up to the bright blue double, and it's a combination that have been quite influential. It stays standing for him, but he is carrying the 4, which means that Marilyn Little remains our only 0 score. Good time, 66.56. It's in fact the fastest time of anyone over the track. Nicola and Derby de Riverland paying quite the penalty for that rail down. Well, it seems like in normal terms it would be quite the penalty because he'll be overtaken by every single clear. But if we don't get that many clears, it might not be too bad a place. Fastest 4-faulter at the moment, sitting second, Nicola Philippart's Derby de Riverland. I say just a few away from the halfway point of our order where we'll take the drag break in our Bainbridge meter 50. $62,500 in today's prize fund, and a man who's taken quite a few dollars of prize money already this year in the Winter Equestrian Festival is world number 9, Shane Sweetnam. Again, Shane's on the rolling monthly standings, moving into the top 10. He sees a real nice spot there with Baloo at the Chrome Horse at number 2. This has the potential to be quite a nailed-on round if he can bring it home on a 0 score. Two podiums in a row, week 7, 5-star, week 8 Nations Cup Grand Prix for Shane. Part of the Irish team that finished second here last week in Florida Coast Equipment week 2. Not far away from a 0 score, 67.98. Remember, it is the time to beat if we get to that point as well. Good spot there. I'm not just sure he's got Marilyn's time. He's going to go onto the board. He'll push Nicola Philippart's down. Marilyn's time is better, and the last goes down. Heartbreaking there for Shane Sweetnam, because he's not going to be as fast as you know, some of our other 4s, like Nicola Philippart's. As we said, Nicola faster than anyone. So Shane Sweetnam and Baloo H going into 3rd. So at the moment, it doesn't really feel like it makes a huge difference. Had he been clear, he would have gone into 2nd. With his 4 faults at the last, he goes into 3rd. I mean, I think there will be financially quite a big difference between 2nd and 3rd in the breakdown of this prize money. But also, every single clear is going to push Nicola Philippart's and Shane Sweetnam and Kyle Tim, our 4-faulters, down and down the order. Ashley Bond now joins us with the Irish Sport Horse mare Comme Ci Comme Ça. And picks up the Chrome Horse fence really early on for 4 faults. So Ashley with Comme Ci Comme Ça, the best she can hope for is 2nd place, and that would mean being faster than 66.56. She could be. She's a pacey enough rider. The question is whether she feels it's worth turning on the afterburners and doing that sort of speed with such an early rail, because again, you increase the speed, you increase the risk. You push yourself into unforced errors. And then when you have the second rail down, you're going to finish behind all of the 4-faulters as well. Ashley still keeping the horse scooting along. Comme ci, comme ça, and Ashley does take the Bainbridge as well. Bainbridge are title sponsors this week for week 9. So 66.63. That is going to be just a shade slower than Nicola Philippart's. He went around in 66.56. I'd say if she's still on the 0, she probably just could have pushed for a margin more and maybe been one of our fastest. But Ashley and Comme ci, comme ça will unfortunately be going onto the leaderboard with 12. So final rider before the midway is going to be the European champion of the sport and world number 4, Richie Vogel. Richie with Coolmore Show Jumping's Ballycotton. Ballycotton is a German bred by Eldorado van der Zeshoek. Richie, winner of the Grand Prix during our first 5-star week, week 5 with Gangster Montésir. Went on then to be top 5 in the week 7 Grand Prix with Gangster as well. Just off the podium, in fact, in 4th place. So now with our 3rd of 4 weeks of 5-star jumping on our hands, what will happen for Richie tomorrow night? At the moment, he's just taken, he took a little bit of a risk. He took a bit of a flyer there at the first part of the Oxblood double, and unfortunately takes the front and back rail down. And he's not going to keep it to 4 faults either. Ballycotton, unfortunately, just kicking out in the air. And that's just a little bit of a loss of balance, a loss of comfort, a loss of confidence in the air from Ballycotton that makes them do that. And it has cost them, again, going into the double. So, in fact, 3 times the A element of the double have been influential for this horse. Time allowed is okay, 71.20, 3 down is going to be 12 for Richie Vogel and Ballycotton, which means that as we go into the drag break here of our Bainbridge 5-star meter 50 table A speed, Marilyn Little and Narado are the only ones who are able to answer all the questions clear, and they lead the way. A group now on 4 faults: Nicola Philippart, Shane Sweetnam and Kyle Tim. Nicola with Derby de Riverland, as he's a double-handed rider in the class, and we've seen both his rides. And then Eduardo Pereira de Menezes rounds out our top 5. Eduardo went very early on and posted so far our fastest 8-fault. And 8 faults is about the most popular score we've seen from amongst this first group. So that's the shape of things so far as Richie Vogel leaves the arena. And Marilyn Little and Narado are our leaders here in Wellington in the Bainbridge 5-star meter 50 speed. So there is the situation as it currently stands. Marilyn Little, Narado, Nicola Philippart's Derby de Riverland, Shane Sweetnam, Ballyh, Kyle Tim, Atomica de Sequoia, Eduardo Pereira de Menezes, and just behind them Tanner Korotkin with the next best 8-faulter. Marilyn Little, the only 0, Nicola, Shane and Kyle all on 4. Don't go too far away. We'll be continuing and concluding the action here in today's feature 5-star, the final port of call on the 5-star tour before Saturday Night Lights here on week 9 of WEF. So the gate risers ready to get us back underway here. Marilyn Little is our only clear round in the Bainbridge 5-star meter 50. How many more clears will we get, and will any of them be faster than Marilyn's time of 67.98? Or have we already seen our winner of this one-round competition? Well, to get us back to it is going to be Spencer. It's actually going to be Erin Ballard. And it is indeed. Erin here, the Canadian Olympian with Mary Frances Lewis, her game ball. As I say, a horse we saw for the world. Number 33, sitting just outside the world's top 25 here last week in good form during the Winter Equestrian Festival's Nations Cup Week 8. So often running. This Alan Wade design track has had problems right the way around, as we say, actually only one rider getting it right and getting it clear. Marilyn was incredibly direct, committed 1 to 2, and that was just the flavour of the round that carried on for her the rest of the way. This Oxblood double has been influential, and if it hasn't caught them there, then the balancing distance down to this big water tray ox at Liverpool at the end of the line has. Erin nails both those. This corner has been a little bit lucky. We've seen horses have that horse's heads fenced down or just break their rhythm a little bit, turning back away from the Moden International Club here to this double. But once again, Erin doing okay. So are we going to open our account here straight away with a second clear? A little bit of a hang in the air, so she needs to move up to this double. Does so. Very, very light plank now out of this corner in front of the NetJets landing. And 67 seconds to beat, so she's not going to beat the time. Is she going to get inside the time allowed of 76? Well, she is that, and she is clear. So no matter how fast those four falters were, Erin Ballard goes in front of them. She is clear round number 2 and takes up second place. And I say, I had the sense that we might suddenly get a rake of clears now from this second half of the draw, between Marilyn proving it could be done and just that little bit of time for people to really take a moment and analyse the course and refine their plans. Talk to trainers, talk to colleagues who've been watching round after round, seeing where it's gone wrong, seeing where it's gone right. On then to Spencer Smith, a Nations Cup veteran many times over for the United States of America, 5-star Grand Prix winner. Spencer just taking that one extra circle. They do have a 45-second countdown, of course. He's got 8, 7, 6 seconds remaining on it. And the riders know that actually that's a lot of time. When the bell goes, your 45 seconds starts, it's not the moment to panic. Unless you suddenly find yourself at the wrong end of an enormous arena like Aachen or Dublin, you've got all the time in the world to get down there, and get down there as it suits you, in your rhythm, as relaxed as you can be, trying to execute your plan. And that's exactly what Spencer did there. He wasn't just approaching the first the way he wanted. He just wanted to balance the horse up a little bit. He took that one extra circle. So Spencer, Queen Hertha, here we go. 2 in a row on the zero score, 71.58. He is a fraction, and I mean a literal fraction, faster than Erin Ballard to take up second place. But that is suddenly, a dramatic increase in the number of clears when we go from 1 before the drag break to suddenly the first two after the drag break, both going clear. We're up to 3 clear rounds. Marilyn Little, Spencer Smith, Erin Ballard. How many more are we going to get? And of course, this is all bad news for those 4 falters. No matter how fast they were, Nicola Philipparts, Shane Sweetnam, Kyle Tim, all dropping down. So Victoria Gulliksen, Norwegian Olympian, and I say part of the Gulliksen dynasty of show jumping in Norway and Europe. Brother Johann Sebastian heading to the World Cup finals this year in Fort Worth, Texas. After some really good results over the Winter World Cup circuit, Vicky herself an Olympian. Father Geir Gulliksen, Jimmy Gulliksen as we all know him, multiple Olympian for Norway. That Wellington fence down at the bottom of the ring with the white rails is incredibly narrow. We talk about skinny fences with lighter rails, but that is in another range, really. So Vicky Gulliksen is going to be 12 for jumping and 3 for time when we analyse it all, with Lambiek there in 78.76. So down the order for that partnership for Norway. 2 4-fault rounds still sitting inside the top 5. That's Nicola Philipparts and Shane Sweetnam. And we go to Casino Royal, now ridden and owned by Elena Haas. Elena from Oakland, California, been jumping as part of the Rainmakers on the Major League Series. And that would mean that she's been jumping on some of those teams and in the week-long structure alongside Marilyn Little, our current leader. Is she going to have caught both parts of that? Certainly the A element is down. I think I can still just see the top rail on the B part, but we heard on the audio there a real solid clunk of both parts. So interesting how influential the doubles are in this track here set today by Alan Wade. You just see Elena Haas's Casino Royale just take a little bit of a look down through the front legs at that little light rail at the top. She's going to take a circle here, but she looks like she's staying in rhythm to maybe just come off a better approach here to the final line, knowing that any possibility of the win is gone from her anyway. And takes the Lugano. So sacrificing quite a lot of time penalties at 16 jumping, 13 for time for Elena and Casino Royale. In fact, 20 for jumping and 13 for time. So world number 7, highest ranked lady rider in the world at the moment, French national champion Nina Malvé, with the Rain Family LLC's My Clementine. As we said when we saw the My Clementine yesterday, part of a series of wins across a 5-star and U25 week in Winter or in World Equestrian Centre last year that really started the ball rolling for Nina Malvé. And a ball that has now landed her for the second month running inside the top 10. She has risen inside that top 10 as well, and brings forward, of course, points for a Rolex Series 5-star Grand Prix win last year at the Brussels Steph X Masters. Unfortunately, that Oxblood double just going out of the top corner of the ring is down for Nina. I'll say there's still a very good chance that we're not going to be, awash with clears. But you know at the moment that the best possible result for a 4-faulter is 4th. And this is a partnership that could potentially have come in here with the pace and the jumping skill, horse and rider, to have maybe snatched victory away from Marilyn Little. What's going to happen now is that Nina, and you see this, has just settled back into a rhythm that she feels is more comfortable, is more assured of clear, knowing that 76 seconds is a long time allowed. So 72.61, she's not chasing being the fastest 4-faulter and therefore risking having another rail down. So Nina and My Clementine, 72.61 with 4 faults. As I say, not far down the ranking, 7th at the moment, but just edging the 8-faulters. 3 8-faulters remain inside our top 10. Eduardo de Menezes, Tana Karotkin and Zoe Hank-Conter. Jonathan McRae, Janan S. Jonathan really focused with us here this spring on at the Winter Equestrian Festival circuit. He picked up some good results last week at top 10 and actually finished just outside the top 5 with this horse in 4-star action. This is looking good, and it's looking like a decent rhythm and pace as well for John. He's a little bit left of centre there, but that will be tactical to just get the distance he wants for this particular horse down to the Bainbridge and the Lugano. Marilyn Little is still faster, but he is clear, 70.88 seconds, and that is good enough for second place then for Jonathan McRae and Janan, and that is a good place to be. This combination were, as I say, just outside the top 5 at a metre 45 class last week. Not only metre 45, so smaller, but 4-star level, so a little bit less technically difficult and demanding. So 5-star metre 50 to go as the second best clear at the moment. And looking at some of the horses and riders, John McRae and Janan will be pretty pleased with that. Callie shot. Callie once again as part of the US League of Nations team this spring in Abu Dhabi in the Middle East. I know with the current conflict in the Middle East has actually impacted some of the international competitions over there and has meant that some of the horses and grooms that were expecting to be there competing and waiting for their riders this weekend have been impacted. Every report we've had has said that they are safe and being given all the care from the local hosts as much as possible, and as soon as flights are available to bring those horses and everyone from the teams back home, it will be done so. But Callie and Ironics, I know, will have Callie will have a real thought of that, having been over in the region just in February of this year, riding for the US team. Callie jumped well here last week as part of the Nations Cup, but she's going to have, in fact, I keep thinking it's the Pony Club colours, and it probably is. Oxer going up towards the blue double down, and I think it's one of the first times we've actually seen that down. But it is an interesting fence with its plank down low. The Bainbridge has the same thing. The Bainbridge is rail, plank down the front. It's always interesting to consider that, because anything like that, there's a big black filler at the bottom of the chrome horse. There is that plank. It's rail, plank, rail down the front of what I've been calling the Pony Club Oxer, all designed to just draw the horse's eye down. You just saw the lozenge in the middle of the Moden fence, you know, bringing the horse's eye down below the top rail, and the rider's job to get them back focused on the top of the jump. Callie shot 4 faults, not too shabby on the time, so she goes just behind Nicola Philipparts and into 6th. Laura Kraut then, Kaylee. Laura continuing to develop the next generation of horses for her string as well. Had a really nice 2-star Grand Prix win up the road in Ocala last weekend. You wouldn't look beyond Laura now to just pull it out of the bag here and maybe move into the driving seat of our Bainbridge Company's 5-star here today. She's clear all the way to the Moden, coming up to this line we were talking about, and there you see it's actually a purple plank just down towards the base of this jump. There we are. 73.14 joins the ranks of the clears. Is actually not terribly fast overall, so takes up 5th place. But Laura has done the job she wanted to do, I'm sure. Whilst not racing around this track, wants to build up this horse's experience and get the 0 on the belt at the meter 55-star level, and that is very much job done. So Charlotte Jacobs joins us now. Charlotte with Ringcool and Milshorn. As I say, the top horse in her stable now for a couple of seasons, couple of Grand Prix wins for this pair. And a horse that came back with her from Ireland after the year she spent at Greg Broderick's Ballypatrick in County Tipperary. On the winning US team here 12 months ago for Nations Cup as well, and was a podium finisher in the challenge during 5-star week 7. That was with Playboy JTZ earlier on this season, so just a fortnight ago. Always a very, very fast rider as well. You shouldn't discount that fact that we know about Charlotte. So the challenge could easily be on here. Marilyn Little, for a long time our only clear, still our fastest clear. Oh, it's going to be Needle. I don't think Charlotte's quite there if she leaves everything standing. 67.98. It's close but no cigar. It is 68.62 for Charlotte Jacobs. It is only our second sub 70 seconds clear round. and it goes into second place. But nobody can quite get close to Marilyn Little the way things currently stand. But Charlotte does the best. She's about 3/4 of a second, in fact 2/3 of a second in arrears. So Kent Farrington, Kent and Greer. What a year Greer had last year. What a year Kent Farrington had. But Greer, a big part of that for Kent. Of course, a double of 5-star Grand Prix wins here at the Winter Equestrian Festival at Greer. That was week 5, week 7 last year. This year, Greer has been top 5 in the 5-star Grand Prix back in WEF 5. Greer also the winner of the Rolex Grand Slam Grand Prix at Geneva over the course of the winter. Won the Traverse City World Cup qualifier at 5-star level, the American Gold Cup at 5-star level, the Major League at Traverse City at 5-star level, the Kentucky 3-day Grand Prix at 5-star level. That was all Greer last year. But second rail down, that is very, very uncharacteristic for this pair, as you can imagine, with that roster of results I've just rattled through. So sitting on 8 faults, the time, of course, he was not there, and probably again changed his plan dramatically. Whether in fact he would ever have ridden Greer in to maybe try and win this class. A 74.57 will get inside the time allowed, but 2 down for Kent and Greer. So Mimi Gotchman and Inklen BH. Mimi with a good day for us yesterday in the Adequan WEF Challenge. DG Sport Horses, Inklen BH for Mimi here. Just ticking away some of the early fences on this course as we have our clears. We're actually building up now. We've got up to 6 clear rounds. So Mimi just on the rollback now to this light plank. So it's been quite influential in the class, and as you say, you see the little bit of marbling on it as well. It's very, very interesting design-wise and visually for the horses. Mimi is going to be clear, 72.25. She joins the ranks of the clears, so that moves up the number of them now up to 7 clear rounds. Mimi will be the 6th best. So one of our very, very fast 4-faulters coming from Shane Sweetenham. That was earlier on with Baloo. Shane rejoins us now. This time it is with Pegina van der Bisschop. He co-owns with VoQuest LLC, Comil Faumer. from the Belgian Warm Blood stud book here for Shane. Again, a rattle going through the modem, but it stays in place and actually might just get the horse jumping that little bit cleaner for the next few moments. And that's always to your advantage, with the exception, of course, that what it can also do to a horse is get them jumping higher. And when it classes against the clock, that can be an expensive thing to have start happening. You want your horse to be as efficient as possible across the ground and across the jumps. Look at that. It was very, very good round, actually, in terms of time. 68.56. Shane will go second best of the four falters. I mean, Nicola Philippart's Derby to Riverlands, you know, an almost impossible time to replicate there of 66.56. But Marilyn Little, 67.98, would have remained our leader if Shane had been clear on that time. He would have gone comfortably into second. And again, you have to slightly wonder if he hadn't had the rail, even as late as it was, he could have been just pressing on that little bit more for the last few strides and maybe just snatched it. So now the horse, again, we're used to seeing with the Gotchmans. This is Dara Kenny with the Gotchman Sport Horses Cosmos BH. Dara in great form here. Latterly in the Winter Equestrian Festival, taking an Adequan WEF Challenge win, taking some good results in terms of Grand Prix, taking a class win already on the World Ranking Circuit this week here at Bainbridge Week 9. Cosmos and Dara, unfortunately, just turning into a relatively expensive round as they look towards the final line here of Bainbridge to Lugano. And 67 is going to be the time taken, but with 12 falls, it's going to be quite far down the ranking, just outside our top 20, in fact. So Kyle Tim at one stage, one of our very few four falters. We've got more of them now, and Kyle actually sits outside the top 10 with the Atomic at a Sequoia. This time Kyle returns to us and he rides Glamour de Chanu for the Rain family of Raleigh, North Carolina. Canadian show jumping champion, taking that title at the Royal Winter Fair last year in November. A prestigious indoor show that hosts a leg of the World Cup series as well. But such a tent pole of show jumping and equestrian sport in Canada, and of course what a platform to represent equestrian sport on, with the Winter Fair bringing together all aspects of equestrianism and country life. It's a super show. Kyle Glamour de Chanu looking good here. That's a really good turn back there. You know, he's on his mettle. You just saw him lose the rhythm, maybe 2 or 3 strides as he just finished his turn and was starting to really get his eyes on the first part of the mode. And could just be where that rail came. He's kept pressing up towards that double. He's ended up getting a tiny bit flat up and had the rails A and B. So suddenly it's 12 faults here for Kyle Glamour de Chanu. Again, it's a time that if he was coming home riding for the win, he could have been a fraction or even a full second faster. So to get around in 69.03 is actually showing very good turn of pace for Glamour de Chanu, but sadly at the cost of 3 down. So Tom Watchman goes next. Tom, who led off our class, returns to us now with Coolmore Show Jumping's Pegasus by the Kiso International sire Chector, by his grandmother Susan Magna. Again, it's going to cost him a little bit of time overall, but he did a really nice job of just coming up, really finishing his turn from 2 to 3, spotting his line and going for the spot he wanted into that skinny fence in front of the in-gate. You know, there's no doubt about it, this young rider, he's a super competent talent. Pegasus just drops nicely into the distance there through the Modern. So Tom, you know, rode off what he had off that turn as well. It wouldn't have necessarily have been the absolute 100 spot into the Modern, but he made it happen. Unfortunately, just up the distance from the purple plank Oxer, it doesn't work out, and it's 2 down for Tom and Pegasus. Here we see that he's just going to be, and as he holds, maybe over the time allowed of 76. Just gets it, 75.34 with 2 down for Tom Watchman and Pegasus. Second ride now for Blythe Caroli. This is Flower Z for Vento Farm. Hoping to join the ranks of our clears leading the way here. Remember, we are up to 7 from Marilyn Little in the lead down to Laura Kraut in 7th. Such a big change, really. You know, 7 sounds like about the right number for the number of starters we're going to see, and yet for the first half of the draw we only had 1 clear round, 6 further clear rounds since we've returned from the drag break. But getting into the final group now, Blythe Caroli and Flower still on the clear. Really quick action there from Flower down over the Liverpool. The Water Tray Oxer at the bottom of the line after the Oxblood double, and clears that line, the bottom of the ring. So here's the turn. And again, this has been influential. And, you know, one of the things that can happen as well is you can make the absolute perfect turn, and then your horse decides to maybe, you know, really lock onto the fence and run through the hand, or looks at the fence and goes, oh, I'm not sure, and backs off ever so slightly. So even though you should, in theory, be on the absolute perfect stride, something about the horse's reaction then maybe makes it not quite right for you. So Blythe and Flower still doing tremendously well on the final line. And the Bainbridge goes. Unbelievable how unlucky people are being out here today, and in so many different spots around this course. 73.80 and 4 faults then for Blythe and Flower. Again, Ansgar Holkers Jr. We saw Ansgar earlier on. Very, very early in the draw. How high in the leaderboard can he get with this second ride? The another for Gut Einhaus. This is Tulum, Chaco Blue Stallion from the German stud books. Oh, swing and a miss. Unfortunately, he is off. He just lets the go of Tulum there. You can see actually he has got one of the air jackets on. They're triggered by a lanyard attached to the saddle. And this is designed to do a couple of things. It's designed to straighten and secure the body in the event of a fall. Also a slight bit of compression and bounce. And the other thing then is if you get into the situation where there might be a crush fall, where the horse might land on top of you. And Tulum is just making good for the in-gate there at the moment. But both up on their feet, and Ansgar will be very pleased of his air jacket, even though he landed on his feet, and have the confidence to know it goes off. But one of the things is it's powered by compressed gas canister, and there can be quite the loud pop when it goes off, and that can sometimes just spook a horse a tiny bit. It's a real balancing act, but more and more of the top riders in show jumping, I'm from an eventing background where we've had them for a very long time, and they're almost universally worn. But when you look at the likes of Martin Fuchs, Laura Kraut, you know, top riders at the top of the sport, wearing them consistently every round of jumping. Yeah, we don't have a Wookiee in the ring. It's just it's one of the noises that we tend to make. The Germans like that noise actually to try and steady a horse. And Tulum is just dropping down to a trot here as he starts to see some friendly, familiar faces. And we are caught. So, as I say, it is sadly elimination there for Ansgar and Tulum for the fall. But both up on their feet, and we hope we'll see them back here competing and winning at the Winter Equestrian Festival as our series continues. The hero of the US Nations Cup team last week, and I'd say we could have said that hundreds of times for this man in his career. McLean Ward, McLean with Le Louvre here. Quite the new ride for McLean, of course, coming from Lily Keenan, so he knows the horse very well. But what is the tactic here from McLean? Actually, I kind of, whoa, unbelievable. I was about to say I know the tactic because we've seen McLean in class after class over the last couple of weeks come in and ride to be competitive. He's not coming into any class to school, and yet here we are. So Le Louvre, as he builds up the relationship with, you know, there's obviously a spot here where the controls, the communication is just not quite established in the partnership. McLean gets the horse back in front of the leg eventually and takes the jump. I think a little bit of the benefit of the doubt from the judges there, because it could be argued that he might have had two cessations of forward movement. In any event, he's going to have a hatful of time penalties, so it won't impact the result or the prize money distribution or the distribution of the world ranking points either terribly much. And McLean just, you know, having had that rail, you know, knowing the horse just dived a little bit of that jump, he was going to land long in the distance. He just sits up so straight in the saddle, so beautifully, like real equitation, to get down to the blue double. So 8 jumping faults, and it's going to be 30 time in the final analysis there for McLean. So Jordan Coyle, this could be one. Jordan with Elan Farms Arizo, the Casal-bred Swedish warm-blood gelding. Jordan, multiple five-star Grand Prix winner. Several winning Nations Cup teams for Ireland. Nations Cup team last year. We talked about dynasties in the sport. There was 3 Coyles. Jordan, his brother Daniel and their cousin as well, all on the team. A little bit like when all the Blumans used to ride for Columbia. You could get 3 Blumans on a team as well. You only needed 1 more to make a full Nations Cup team. Still on the 0 score. Oh my God, he's just holding down to that final line. And Ariso says, no thank you. I don't understand quite what we're, asking. We've been moving, we've been motoring, we've been going fast, and now you're asking me to hold. It's a completely sensible thing to do to try and get the best spot there. And actually it looks like Jordan is maybe not even going to continue and conclude the round. First of 4 remaining Bliss here's with Bridgeside Farms LLC's Goodbye by Eldorado van der Zeshoek. So what now? We've still got Marilyn Little as our leader for the United States of America. Chances to come from Bliss for the USA, Aaron Ballard for Canada, René Dittmer for Germany, and Gabriel de Matos for Brazil before we are done with this class. Marilyn and Nerado's time 67.98. Oh, and taking that second element of the double out almost at the base of the fence. Very, very difficult moment, and actually Bliss tips the hat and is also going to retire here at the end of the drawn order. So we've got 3 more to see. Yeah, this is our first rider to return, having had a clear earlier on. Erin Ballard, her game ball, sitting 5th as Erin comes with Fève d'Auteuil. So can she put it a little bit together, knowing a tactic that for her other horse, and all the horses are going to be different, the tactic that gave her game ball a clear, can she replicate it, adjust it for Fève d'Auteuil, and can this horse be one that can move around this track faster than Marilyn Little's 67.98?
Yeah, I just glanced away. It's like suddenly she's doing a little circle down there after the line to the green, white and gold. And that's going to be all she wrote. I think we might give her the benefit of the doubt and say that's retirement, but certainly it is failure to proceed on 2 occasions. The circle will be classed as a refusal, and that would be the second, but Erin and Fave Dortui will be classed as having retired. So René Dittmer and Brunson, I was about to start talking up his chances, and he has the second fence down. René Dittmer won't be our winner. So just coming up this line. Oh, a little bit of a peck there. Coming up to big double. René, very, very tall rider. Very tall riders have to be very conscious of their position in the saddle as well, as they can really move the horse's balance so very quickly. René over the last. Going to be some time faults too. 8 for jumping, 3 for time for René Dittmer and Brunson. They're riding for Isabella Rusikov. So just one challenger remaining. It's going to be the Brazilian rider Gabriel de Matos, or is it going to be victory for Marilyn Little and Narado, already moving up the world rankings thanks to performances over the last few months here at Winter Equestrian Festival. Marilyn might be about to take a world ranking class win here in our meter 50 this afternoon. So Gabriel de Matos Machado and Niles van der Mottelhoven will bring it home here in our Bainbridge Company's meter 50 table A speed, 5-star $62,500 class. And they're choosing, I would say, it feels like a nice middle line here. They are being forward enough to be competitive. They're probably not being of the pace to take on Marilyn Little, but then maybe staying a little bit closer to the horse's comfort zone in terms of the speed at which it will find these distances, these jumps, this scope, this relationship between fences, all to be possible. It's not guaranteed, but possible. Marilyn Little and Charlotte Jacobs very close together at the top of the table, and then John McRae just over 70 seconds. So there's a little bit of an opportunity here to sneak in for a good position, but not if you have a rail. So Gabrielle and will with Niles pick up 69.91 and the 4 faults, so it's down the order for them, with our fastest 4 fault and Nicola Philipparts and Derby de Riverland finishing inside the top 10 in 8th position. Marilyn Little will be our winner here of the Bainbridge Company's 5-star class today, with Narado, Charlotte Jacobs, Rinkula Milshawn in 2nd, John McRae and Janan S in 3rd. It's another good result for a 2nd week in a row for John McRae. Spencer Smith and Queen Hertha were clear for 4th. Clear for 5th, Erin Ballard and her game ball. Mimi Gotchman and Inklen taking a clear as well for 6th. And actually just off our front page of results, we have Laura Kreit and Kaylee clear for 7th in the ranking. So a very, very good class here, and a prelude to what's to come across the weekend with the Bainbridge Company's $500,000 Grand Prix here tomorrow night, 7:15 first horse, and also then our Hermes Meter 50 Classic here on Sunday at the Winter Equestrian Festival's Week 9. That is going to wrap up the 5-star tour. But this competition, as we go out to awards in just a moment, is not going to wrap up our Friday here from the International Ring, because we've got one more International to come, and that is going to be the Coastal Steel Structures 2-star $10,000 meter 45 table A speed. About 40 contenders coming up in that one, and of course we'll have it for you here on the stream from this 9th week of the Winter Equestrian Festival. Thanks for joining us for the 5-star, and we'll look forward to having you back across the weekend.